Well, good morning all, welcome to the channel today. I am back down in sunny Herefordshire for the next Brightwells classic car auction. Quite a mix of cars as always, and as ever I'll try and feature a little bit of everything. The noisy A49 is just over the way there. I think I'll probably head indoors and do the cars in there first and then come out here, have a bit of a wander around and see what gems we can spot. As ever, a mix of vintage cars, classic cars and some later modern classics. There are a few car movings going on behind, so that's another good reason maybe to go indoors, and then we'll come back out here once things have settled down just a little bit. Today it is Tuesday the 9th of September, that's the day of recording. The auction itself starts, it's an online timed auction, begins this coming Saturday and runs through till Wednesday. So unlike a traditional auction where you have to bid on the day, this one you do have a few days in which to check out some of the lots for yourself. There will be some viewing days coming up pretty soon, I'm sure of that. As always, if there's anything that really floats your boat in this particular auction, drop a line, get in touch with Brightwells themselves. Brightwells.com has all the information on each particular car. This is really just a bit of a walk around, a bit of an introduction, just to give you an idea of what's coming up in the upcoming sale. Right, let's crack on with it. This looks like an excellent place to start alongside the MGB, which I believe was from a previous auction. We have this pretty cool looking Triumph 2000 Mark II. I say 2000, it could be the 2.5. They both look pretty much identical. This one in full rally guise, Brian Kulcheth. Well, that's a name from the past. Someone who did indeed rally old Triumphs back in period. This one looks like it's received the works. Wow, I wonder what the story is with this. Looks like it certainly has been around a fair bit. I like the roof vent. I think that is off an A40 van. It looks very much like the old Austin A40 van, the Devon-shaped van vent. I'm pretty sure I've seen one of those before, but that is a pretty groovy car. And if you like your modified classics, well, how about this? This is a recreation of the MGC GTS, the race-prepared 6-cylinder MGCs, and I have to say, not all of these look particularly good. You can buy the kit to convert a regular MGB or MGC into the GTS spec, but this one actually looks really tasty. Look at those gorgeous wheels. Are they Baranis? They look a bit similar to that. Whatever they are, they look pretty tasty. Oftentimes people put the wide arches on these cars, but regular size, regular width wheels, and they just look a bit silly. But that actually looks really, really purposeful indeed. I do quite like that. As I always say, the information sheets aren't yet in the window because we're a little bit before the main viewing days, so I can't give you estimates on most of the cars as I'm walking around. All the details, like I say, are on the Brightwells website, so that is where you'll find all that kind of information. Look at this one here. Now we've got the old Land Crab, the 1800. This one took part on the old Pirelli Classic Marathon. I well remember those programmes back in the late 1980s. I remember the events being featured on there. And I do in fact remember this car because the sticker on the back is for the Molesworth Motor Museum. Now that's a museum that's no longer around, but I well remember it, based in Molesworth, a town in Cheshire, or a village rather, in Cheshire. And for a time I used to help out and volunteer there. So this is a Morris 1800 Mark IIS, built up for historic rallying, and it certainly looks the part. Spare wheels mounted on the roof. What a thing. That is pretty neat. Let's have a quick peer inside. It'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? Assuming it's open. There we go. So bucket seats, a full roll cage in there. Yeah. Very, very non-standard dash. All the bells and whistles in there, so that's pretty neat. And I like the fact it's still got the wood cappings on the top of the doors. Right, let's carry on. Yeah, that MGC is a glorious looking car. In front of the MGC is this, the R107 era of Mercedes-Benz SL. This one with the factory hardtop. and it would seem the Electro Systems Cosmos Vehicle Security. I'm guessing that's a 1980s fitment. It's a 280 SL 2.8 straight 6. Mrs. OCC and indeed my youthful assistant are both fans of this era of SL and the fixed coupe SLCs. If you saw the last video I did, I was with my youthful assistant, actually joined me here. Sadly he's not able to come today because he's at college. Right, okie dokie, now we have quite the assortment of classic Jaguars on row number 1. So let's have a quick look at this. So what do we have heading up this particular lineup? A lightly modified Jaguar Mark II. I say lightly modified because I spy the Coombs style cutaway rear arches. So that was a modification that race prepper John Coombs did back in the day when preparing Jaguar Mark IIs for race outings. This is actually one of the slightly later cars, one of the run-out cars, technically not a Mark II. It's got the 3.4 engine, so this would have been the Jaguar 340. There was also the 240 with the 2.4 engine. By this point in time, they'd pretty much stopped the 3.8 litre cars. There was one or two rumours swirling around that a few Jaguar 380s did leave the factory, but I think in terms of factory offered models, it was either the 2.4 or the 3.4 by this point in time. Later seats in this one for a bit of added comfort. Yeah, a few little mods in this one. Manual overdrive, that's good. There's a lovely, lovely dark blue. It's always a treat to come down to these auctions and just have a wander around and see what cars are here and imagine which cars which cars would you like to actually bid on. And maybe let me know in the comments which cars particularly appeal to you. Now, this is a Mark II. Note the much deeper bumpers compared to the later 340, which has these very slim bumpers similar to those that were fitted to the S-Type or the 3.4 and 3.8 S saloons. This one again is somewhat modified. It's got a very tasty louvered bonnet on it, so I like a bit of that. Slightly cutaway rear arches on this one. These rear arches are removable, so I think those are slightly slimmer compared to the factory cars. This one a lovely dark metallic, like a dark greeny blue metallic. That is lovely. Again, manual box. Lovely place to be, all the wood leather. Very good headlining as well. So yeah, lovely car. Let's carry on one line. Another 64 Mark II here. A 3.8, so that was the biggest engine that Jaguar fitted to the Mark II. And again, a slightly cutaway rear arches as well. So don't they look good together? Very tasty. It's a slightly later Jaguars now, and of course the XJS, this the full convertible version on an M registration, so mid 1990s for this one. Let's have a quick look. Small rear seats, not the biggest rear seats in the world, but if you've got little people then you could put them in there. Very, very comfy, very, very agreeable, very swish, grand touring car. No sports car. This is one of the facelifted cars with the later back lights. Yeah. Very handsome machine indeed. A slightly earlier coupe version of the XJS here. Yeah, very nice on an F. So what's now this one has got some information in the screen. That's always useful. 3.6 coupe sports on an F. 1989. There we go. Estimate 11 to 13 on that one. I think XJSs are getting more and more appreciated as time rolls by. The bad ones have gone by now, leaving just the well cared for cars. All these are the usual places you check down here. Arches, they feel really nice actually. They feel as good as the day it was made. You can't say that for every XJS. This is one of the pre-facelift cars, as you can see by the shape of the backlights and these rear side windows. Auto box, as most XJSs probably were. The very first V12 XJSs of 1975 were offered with manual boxes. They were using the old stocks of E-Type Series 3 manual boxes. And when the 6-cylinder XJSs were launched, you could also get the manual box with those as well. But I imagine for this kind of car, you'd probably go out happy with an auto just to waft along. This is a V12 XJSC, so before the full convertible came out, this is what Jaguar offered, which is a bit of a halfway house with this fixed roll bar, very similar to the Triumph Stag in that respect. Probably quite a rare car now, I would have thought. This one on a C plate, so 1985 or 6 is the registration date for that one. 5.3 litre V12 engine under the bonnet. Good looking car, that. Right, let's carry on along here. Another full convertible. I say quite the assortment of Jaguars. We've got an XKR here, so the supercharged version of the XK8. You can tell supercharged because it says supercharged, but from a distance you've got these louvers on the bonnet, which aren't a thing on the regular XK8. Yeah. Good looking car, bit of a bargain those are at the moment. Later XK here, beautiful shade of metallic green. And as I've said before, we'll try and feature a little bit of everything in these videos, but we'll mainly be looking closer at the older cars. There we go, got a V8 Jaguar here. I came down in our XJ 3.2 Sport today, V8 power. It's a very similar car to this one. And this one looks super clean. Where do you look on the bodies of these? Well, this is a common place for these to rust out. Same at the back end of the sills and the arches. These arches feel, certainly this one, that feels like new. Yeah, the Jaguar Sovereign, very classy car. You get an awful lot of car for not a great deal of money when you're looking at these. Let's just have a quick look in here. Very nice too. One of the places is to check the bolster here, because these bolsters can wear quite badly. This one's pretty good actually, and the headlining is good as well because they can get a bit saggy. Don't ask me how I know that. Yeah, very smartly turned out XJ8. I do like that. And on the end here, not a Jaguar, this is the Daimler, the V8 250 or 2.5 litre as they were sometimes badged. They did change the badging on these throughout production, but yeah, 2.5 litre V8 Daimler version here of the Mark II. By all accounts, a very, very nice car. Most of these are autos. I think this one is auto. You can see the selector on the top of the steering column there. They did about 400 or so manual versions of these. They're pretty thin on the ground and quite sought after now. Painted wires on this one. I do like those. They look just right, not too blingy. Sometimes chrome, in my opinion, can be a bit blingy, but obviously that's just a personal preference. Quite a distinctive registration number as well on that one. Hopefully that'll stay on it. Yeah, a very, very tasty assortment of Jaguars, old and very old, here at Brightwells. Right, let's carry on along here. I'm conscious that these videos often drag on a bit, so I'm going to try and get this one done a little bit faster. And in the corner here, oh, a great old Lanchester. Yep, this old Lanchester is definitely a restoration project. Wow, what a thing. This dates to 1935. It's a Lanchester 12. It's a 12 horsepower light 6. So this will have a fairly small capacity straight 6 engine under the bonnet. By this point in time, Lanchester part of Daimler, and lots of similarities when you're getting close to these cars. The shape, the way the bonnet comes down and then flattens off here, and that's carried on onto the scuttle. This is very much a mid-1930s Daimler thing. It's also got, well, I imagine it's got the pre-selected gearbox just like most Daimlers of the era. Yeah, what a rare thing. Probably, I bet this is almost unique You'd like to think that someone will take this on. A bit of a project, hence no reserve, so this could sneak through the auction, being surrounded by so many beautifully turned out cars. This one may just be a bit of a sleeper. If you're handy with a spanner, this could be a very rewarding project. The Daimler Lanchester Owners Club is a great resource if you need spares and advice on Daimler's Lanchesters of this era, so you won't be on your own if you decide to take this on. It's quite nice. I like this strip down the side in contrasting red in this case. I wonder where this one's been. Look at the Kruger National Park. Clearly been sat in someone's barn for a while. This mesh here, this would have had material over it, very similar to the Riley RMs. They use that sort of mesh and padding arrangement on the roof, so that would all need redoing. Let's just go around the back and have a look. Yeah, so the fabric covering is off the roof. It actually makes it look worse than it probably is. Obviously you want to have a good look around here. The wood is a little delicate. Maybe someone will make a special out of this. It'd be nice if something was done, but being such a rare car, these light sixes are pretty much extinct now. It would be nice if this could be saved. There's the other lamp, and indeed a few other bits and bobs on the back seat. Yeah. Signs of old repairs. So yeah, definitely a project for someone who will take this on. If you do, let me know in the comments. Get in touch, because I'd love to follow progress if someone does decide to take this one on. The worst case scenario is that someone buys it for parts, but it'd be nice to think that someone would have a go at this, especially with no reserve. You might just get this for a few £100. It's not going to go for much. So you've got rear hinge, the so-called suicide doors on the front. I won't bother opening those, I don't think. All the dash is there. You get the pre-selector lever on the side of the steering there. Yeah, lots to do. But at least all the important bits look like they're there. I've not looked under the bonnet. No, I won't try getting in there. Is this open? No, it's a bit tight. I'm not going to risk that. If you're interested in this, get down for one of the auction viewing days and check it out for yourself. As I always say, don't take inclusion in one of my videos as a recommendation to actually bid on something. This is purely an introduction video. For any specifics, contact the office in the first instance and find out when the viewing days is, and there's no substitute for actually coming to have a look yourself. But yeah, what a treat to see this old Lanchester here. And staying with pre-war cars, we've got this. This is a 1937 standard Flying 10. I remember the estimate on this one is only about £3,500 to £4,500. There's a lot of bargains around in the pre-war car world at the moment. This could be one of them. So yeah, Flying 10, late 1930s. There's the 10 on the starter handle cover rather. Lovely straight grille. These grills were quite prone to damage. You could easily nudge those when parking, because the grille is actually quite close to the bumper. So to see such a straight grille on this one is very, very nice indeed. Let's have a quick look around. Obviously I don't know if these cars are runners. The website will give you all that kind of information. Door opens nicely, no drop. It's always a good sign. Looks like original, very original in here. Bit of tidying up. Maybe tidy the headlining up a little bit. Big sunroof in these, but loads of room. Look how far back the rear seat is, giving you oodles of legroom for the rear seat passengers. And again, good spare support for these. Standard Motor Club is very good when it comes to supporting owners of standards of all eras, pre and post-war. This is a late 1930s car, ETT, so that's Devon registration, probably Exeter, I would have thought. Stylish little cars. I do like the shape of these. I think they've the nice flowing lines on these. 4 doors, quite a practical car. Let's just have a quick look in here. Opens nicely. Well, there you go, 1937 standard Flying 10. A bit of cleaning up to do, maybe try and do something sympathetic to that squab perhaps. But yeah. I do love a pre-war car, as you've probably noticed. They're just such characterful things. It's a nice little mirror. I won't force that, it's a bit of a funny angle. But yeah, interesting. Is this the original paint? Maybe, could be. It's certainly been on there a long time. And, that would be quite satisfying to clean that up, just tickle it up a little bit. And you'll actually have a nice car. Cars of this era, and even the Morris Minors, where they've got the bolt-on back wings, you always want to have a look where, because the bolts go through underneath here, the bolts go through into the main body. Water runs down here, and the cars live outside, and eventually it gets in behind this beading and it'll start rusting. So if you can just pull slightly, gently on the wing, and it all feels firmly attached, that's a good sign that all being well, the structure behind there is good. So that's a top tip when it comes to cars of this era. But yeah, what a beauty. Right, let's carry on along here. Slightly earlier is this Morris 1922 is the date for this beauty. This is the Morris Oxford, so slightly more upmarket, brother to the bullnose Morris Cowley. Yeah, this one's 1922. It was sold new in New Zealand of all places. The estimate on this is about 9, 10, 11, that kind of ballpark. And for that you'll get yourself a very characterful vintage car. Yeah, not too shiny. Sometimes there's a temptation to really polish those up, but I'll leave it just like that. That looks just ideal. 4-seat, 4-door, well I say 4-door, yeah, 4-seat Tourer. Is this a door? Oops, we've got a door there, although it doesn't open very far with that, so you'd probably clamber across from the other side. That's usually what you do with cars of this age, but no exterior door hinges on this one. Just these lovely little door handles on the inside. Very nice. Nice trim, carpeted on the back of the seats. Got the side screen there. Looks like it's been retrimmed at some point in time. Like I say, this one went to New Zealand when it was new. What a great thing. Spares availability is pretty good for these old Morrises as well. They made a lot of them. BS 9480, the registration number on that one. Yeah. Isn't that just a cracker? I do love this kind of thing. Lots of nickel plated gauges, surrounds and all that sort of thing. There's the original supplying dealer plaque from New Zealand. I won't even try and pronounce the name on there. Lovely vintage car. Just imagine pottering out on a Sunday afternoon. Wouldn't that just be perfect? It's always good to see some nice, interesting pre-war and in this case vintage car action in these classic car auctions. And staying with pre-war, we're back to standards, and this is a 1939 standard. Now, is this an 8? I think it probably is an 8. Yeah, this is the 8, or rather the Flying 8, a little Tourer version. They did the drop-head coupe, which had a more involved, slightly more substantial roof arrangement, and this is the little Tourer. You can tell it's pre-war because it's got these vents in the side of the bonnet. The Flying 8 was reintroduced as the 8 following the Second World War and was produced for just a couple of years or so, but this is a very late 1930s Flying 8 Tourer, DAB 544, original registration number. What's this AA badge here? AA South Africa. That's probably quite a rare variant of the good old Automobile Association badges. Again, lovely, lovely straight so-called waterfall grille. You can see the family connection to this and the Flying 10 just along the way there. I remember dragging one of these out of a Welsh garage many, many moons ago in many, many pieces. Quite bright blue interior trim in this one. No external door handles, so there'll just be a little handle down there. There it is. So that'll work. It's been converted from pop-up semaphore indicators to flashing indicators. Ooh, what a bonny little car that is. I do like that one a lot. Like I say, quite a small engine, little side valve, 4-cylinder engine in that one. It dates, when does this one date to? Let me just see if I can find any information on this. It's a 1939 estimate, 5.5 to 6.5, which doesn't seem crazy at all. That is a very, very bonny little standard if you like that kind of thing. Maybe you prefer Riley. Alongside that is a Riley 9 Monaco from 1928. The estimate on this is 6.5 to 8.5. Fabric bodied saloon. The Riley 9 Monaco is a very, very popular choice, especially as they're eligible for VSCC or Vintage Sports Car Club events, little road runs, that kind of thing. Yeah, nice. KO, that's its original registration number. Like I say, fabric body over an ash frame. All looks to be pretty good. There we go, let's have a look at this. I love the little door lock and the little thing to go over the keyhole there. That's quite neat. Is it open? Yeah. And as always with these cars, you're looking for any drop in the door, but no drop in that. The frame looks to be good. Lovely wooden cappings here. Very bucketed seats. Proper cloth headlining, old West of England cloth. Let's have a look. There's a lovely badge there for the supplying dealer. I can't quite see who it is, but that is a beauty. Yeah, these little Riley 9s, and indeed the 12s. Yeah, that shuts really nicely actually. Very, very popular pre-war cars. And like the Morris that I was talking about before, quite well supported, and there's a number of specialists around who are dedicated to keeping these early Rileys on the road. Real sporting saloons. So even though not the biggest engine in the world, by all accounts these actually drive along, hum along the road very, very happily indeed. Now this is an interesting one. First glance, you'd think we're looking at a pre-war MG, and indeed there are pre-war MG things visible here on this incredible car. But this is actually based on an MGB. But unlike most sort of copycats of pre-war cars based on later running gear, this one is actually pretty convincing. I'm actually surprised just how well done this one has been, how it's been executed. Yeah, the F registration is a bit of a giveaway, but we've got a proper pre-war MG radiator shell there. Proper pre-war Lucas lamps. Great little wings and decent sized diameter wheels, disc brakes, so it does stop. But actually that's more convincing than I thought it might be. I had a quick look on the website this morning just to see what cars were entered into the auction today, but that is actually a very bonny little car. A lot of effort has gone into making the detailing on this pretty convincing. The spare wheel on the side, of course. A boat tail. That has actually been very well done. And regulars will know I'm not a fan of kit cars particularly, or cars that are made to look older than they are. But this one bucks that trend. This is actually, it's a lot better than I thought it would be. Quite a long tail, so you've got a fair bit of storage space in the back there. But whoever actually built that has done a good job and really thought about it. Yeah, that's actually way nicer than I thought it would be. We'll just carry on along this row while we're here. This is the old Austin Champ, this one on a 1966 road registration, but probably a little bit older than that. An interesting military vehicle, and there's the reminder that these were Rolls-Royce powered. I don't know a huge amount about military vehicles, And this is the Austin Gypsy. This was Austin BMC's rival to the good old Land Rover, hence the appearance, which is somewhat Land Rover-like. You can certainly see where BMC got their inspiration from in terms of the styling. These are the fairly complicated suspension, if I remember, at least the early ones did. Some sort of rubber cone type arrangement, I can't quite remember now. The downside with these is, and the reason they don't survive too well is, unlike the Land Rover, all the panels on these are steel, and as a consequence they went rusty. Most of them went very, very rusty indeed. Lots of checker plates in the back. But yeah, the survivors of these are fairly thin on the ground, and there's an interesting alternative to maybe a Series 2 Land Rover. This could be an interesting thing to grab. All looks to be present and correct in there. Yeah. Got a character for old girl. 814XWA is the registration number. Got a couple of Land Rovers over there. Right, I think before I get too lost, we'll go along this row here and just have a quick ogle at this wonderful assortment of pre-war cars. And then we will go down there. Actually, I can probably do both rows at the same time. So first up, there we have this. I think this is about 1952. This is an Alvis drophead coupe. It's about 1952, I think, something around about that. Yeah, 1952 TA21 drophead, body by Tickford. The estimate on this one is 20 to 25. What a great looking car that is. And this one has been upgraded to Grey Lady spec. Grey Lady was the souped up performance version of your regular Alvis saloon, hence the fitment of these Y wheels. I don't think that was a standard fitment on these usually, but the Grey Ladies did have that, and the Grey Lady saloons also had some air intakes on the top of the bonnet here. So this is a car that's been upgraded to Grey Lady specification, and like I say, the estimate is 20 to 25. It's a stunning looking car, proper post-war coach built car. Let's have a quick look in here. So large long doors, and long doors like that mean heavy doors, and that is always a good test of the hinging and indeed the hinge pillar, and that just opens beautifully. No drop on that one, so that's always nice to see. But yeah, very long doors, enabling access to the rear seating compartment. That just folds forward. Always be very, very careful, but look at those seats. How agreeable does that look in there? It looks like an old cinema. Just wonderful trim in here. This car's worth buying just for the interior. I won't sit in, but you can get an idea of what's what. What a beautiful, beautiful car. And the door shuts a treat as well. That's a lot of car. What a beauty. Next to that, we are back to pre-war Rileys. This is a Riley Lynx of the mid-1930s. Beautiful example. This one in cream, so a 4-seat tourer. That's what the Lynxes were. Yep, lovely, lovely car. About 1935 or 36. Let's just have a quick look around the back. CDU 618, so presumably the original registration number on that one. We do see Lynxes around a bit. They're a good family choice if you want a pre-war tourer and you've got a family. Well, there's a fair bit of room in the back for 2, maybe 3 small people in the back there. This one's got its side screens with it to keep the worst of the weather out. Very, very handsome car. Like I say, Riley's very well supported, so even though these cars from the 1930s, you can still get the bits for them. So that's always a good thing in my book, because the last thing you want to do is struggle to find parts if you're trying to fix up something. Right, let's carry on. MGB Roadster, quite a common sight in the auctions. These are super duper popular. This is a fairly late chrome bumper car on an M. What makes this one unusual is this sort of clear panel in the soft top. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I'm pretty sure it's not a solar panel. Let's have a look inside. Oh yeah, that gives you a bit more, I don't know, does it give you a bit more light inside? I suppose it probably does. Certainly unusual. Looks like, it does look like possibly the original top. It doesn't look like it's been replaced any time recently. If it has been replaced, it's not been done lately, I don't think. In good condition. It'll look nice with some nice metal plates on it. That'll be the first thing I'll do with that, and that will just finish it off a treat. Maybe give the old Ross style wheels a bit of a lick of paint, but yeah, the important stuff seems to be there or thereabouts. Yeah, pretty tidy in there, isn't it? Seams are good. You're always looking for seams here to make sure that seam hasn't disappeared under filler, which is not unknown on these. Same with minis, you're always looking for seams to see if they are still there. Next to the B is its rival from the day in many respects, the good old Triumph, the Triumph GT6 Mark III. This one wants a bit of paintwork, so that shall keep the price within sight of most enthusiasts, I would have thought. It's on an L registration, 6-cylinder engine, of course. All the GT6s came out the factory with the 2-litre straight six. Different suspension permutations were used on the GT6 over the 3 main versions that were offered. Early Mark IIIs had the Rotoflex suspension from the Mark II. Later ones, they went to the simpler and cheaper swing spring arrangement that was introduced on the late Spitfires. Yeah, a bit of paint. I wonder if it's been left under a cover. Possibly. A few splits and spots in the paint, bit of cracking going on. But importantly, I can't see any rust bubbling up through here. This is somewhere that is kind of unique to GT6s for rust. But I think if this one was rusty in this area, it would have shown up by now. And that sounds like metal, so that's a good thing. So a bit of paint, but on the face of it, that could be quite an interesting project and something you could probably use pretty much straight away. Okie dokie, right. Somewhat newer is this incredible, very eye-catching Fiat X19, about 1987 or 88. It's a fairly late one with the bigger safety bumpers. The earlier cars had much smaller bumpers. Got the Bertoni badge there, Bertoni of Turin, right-hand drive. A little mid-engine sports car brought out in the 1970s. Pretty natty set of alloy wheels on this one. Engine hidden away under the cover there behind the seating. It's a strict 2-seater, this is. Manual box. Quite a fun little car. Interesting alternative to perhaps an MGB or a TR7. Let's have a quick look in here. Let's open the door. Always thinking I might set an alarm off or something when I open the door. So there we go. Very smart in here. Trim looks pretty healthy, I must admit. I like the gear lever. That's quite a funky looking thing. Everything you need, and nothing really that you don't need. Just nice, simple, clear instrumentation, and nothing else to distract you. Yeah. Neat little car that is. I like that. I'll just give that a gentle. Yeah. Looks to be in good state of repair. That's good. We have a TVR in front of it, very similar colour. This one from the late 1970s. Fiberglass body, of course, built up in Blackpool. That is a neat old girl. And somewhat older is this MGA Roadster VYY 552, the original registration and indeed registration plate on it. It's a right-hand drive car on steelies. Makes a change. It's nice to see them on steel wheels. The old Radiomobile radio there, just like one dad had in his Volvo when I was a kid. I well remember he had a Motorola in one of his cars, one of his old Volvos, and then Radiomobile in the other one. Looks like a pretty original car. The paint is a little bit old perhaps, would polish up a bit, but actually it's got that sort of nice sort of lived in feel to it. Not too shiny, not immaculate, not perfect, but actually a nice car just to use and not worry too much about, I would suggest. Yeah, lovely jubbly. This is the Riley Elf. It's a Mark III, so it'll have the hidden door hinges. The Mark 1s and 2s still had the outside door hinges of the early Minis, of course Mini based with a longer tail and somewhat more upmarket inside. So you've got the full width dashboard in these, whereas the Minis, they just had the Speedo, the little instrument cluster in the middle and nothing either side, just sort of glove tray. But these had the full width dash with the opening glove boxes there and there. Quite nicely appointed these are. Headlining looks good. I like the patterning of those as well. That's nice to see. And this is the seam that you always look at on Minis under here. These Elves have this chrome or stainless trim rather here, but you're always looking along round here for filler and rot in these A panels, the hinge panel behind there. Same down here when you're looking at the sills. Always have a good poke around at the sills and make sure that this little seam is still there, because that often disappears on the filler on averagely restored cars. Yeah, bit of fun that one. Like I say, let me know in the comments which of these cars, if any, float your boat. What would you go for? What would you like to see in your garage perhaps? Got another MGB Roadster, the good old MGB. This one, a C65 registration, fairly early one, with the pull door handles, as I've said before. Early cars have these, later cars they just have the fixed handle and the push-in button. All looks pretty clean and correct in there. Aftermarket steering wheel in there. Paint is presentable. A few little blemishes here and there, but nothing really there that you'd lose too much sleep over. But I imagine it'll be priced accordingly. Pretty nice. And here, the Morris Minor 1000 of about 1964. Bit of Nurse Gladys Emmanuel, if you remember Open All Hours. She used to drive one very similar to this. Bonny little car. I think the estimate on this is about 3.5 off the top of my head. Originally it would have had cream wheels. The later Morris Minors, the very last ones, did have silver wheels, but that would be fairly easy to remedy. Far more important is to check the floors, the cross member, sills, all that kind of thing. The box sections that run underneath the side of the engine, that's always something to have a good look at. But this one, on the face of it, looks to be a very tidy car indeed. Yeah, very nice. And being a 4-door makes it quite practical. 2 doors have slightly longer doors either side. The 4 doors, if you're regularly carrying people in the back, I think the 4-door edges the 2-door in that regard. And it's funny how, even though by this point in time they'd switched to flashing indicators, the B-pillar panel still has this raised section blanked off, where the trafficators, the old semaphore indicators, would have been fitted on the much earlier cars. There we go, door opens nicely there. Lovely old Radiomobile radio down there, whether it's plugged in or not quite sure, but it doesn't really matter. Oh, nice headlining. Yeah. Sills. Yeah. Nice thing. And over here we have a Bentley R-Type, a 2-tone Bentley R-Type from 1954, SMA 407 is the registration number of this one. The estimate is £15,000 to £17,000. proper wafter. Lovely, lovely car. Let's have a quick peer inside. Yeah. All very agreeable. West of England cloth headlining. Looks like the original leather seats. Just nicely mellowed in. Woodwork even around the opening sliding roof. You've got a nice fitted woodwork around there. That's a nice detail. Yeah, what a great place to sit. Admire the view down the long bonnet. Yeah. Needs a door handle, it would appear. It looks like it's got an extra security lock, a Yale lock down there as well. That wouldn't have been original, but that's neither here nor there. Yale lock on the bonnet as well. Yeah, handsome looking car. Looks like the original chrome. Nicely sort of mellowed, polished through perhaps in places around here. That gives it a nice sort of glow, nice original glow. As befits its age. I mean, how old is that now? 1954. So it's like over 70 years old. So that's got some age to it, that has now. But a very usable car. Certainly keep up with modern traffic very well, that would. So if you're interested in a post-war luxury car, this one might be worth having a close look at. Like I say, I always recommend coming along to viewing days to see these things in the metal. Right, bit of Morgan action here. Is this a +8? I think those wheels were +8 fitment, if I remember right, at least originally. Yeah, +8. It's got a good old Rover V8 engine in that one. Funny enough, driving down here, down the A49 this morning, there was a convoy of brand new Morgans. Maybe it was a factory organised run just to woo new clients to the Morgans of today. These were produced for an awful long time. It's interesting how those bonnet catches started out life on the old Ford Pops and the Ford 8s and 10s, and still in use on Morgans, probably even to this day. But yeah, quite a smart example of the +8. Next to the Moggy 1000 we have Austin Healey Sprite Mark 1, the good old Frog Eye Sprite. Little A-series engine under that lift-up bonnet. Pretty good engine access. The whole front end is rear hinged and goes back and gives you pretty good access under there. Little slidey side screens, that was a standard thing. Of course you need sliding side screens on these because there's no exterior door handle. So back in the day, when you didn't worry too much about security, you would slide the window forward using these little blocks on the acrylic side screens, and you would reach in to get the door handle that way. How times have changed. Yeah, lovely little car. Quite a big storage area behind the seats, but to get to it you have to fold the rear, the rear seats, you have to fold the only seats there are forward to get into there, to put your luggage in there, but that's not really a big issue, is it? But lovely little car, dinky little thing, very characterful as well. It's easy to see how they got the Frog Eye name, or Bug Eye, as was the case in the US of A. But yeah, lovely cars. It's actually quite a nice assortment of sporting cars here today. And talking of sports cars, on the end of this row, we've got a bright red Triumph TR6. I think I remember reading that this one had been reshelled a few years ago, so hopefully that should mean there's no rot issues on this one. I was actually reading about TR6s the other day, an interesting little nugget of information. Alan Alda, the American actor who appeared in many things, including the long-running MASH TV series in the 1970s. He had one of these, apparently. And that is the reason that Triumph in America, or perhaps British Leyland, they actually sponsored the factory. The company sponsored the MASH TV series based on the fact that Alan Alda had a TR6 and was a big fan of them. So yeah, I didn't know that. I'm assuming the information that I read on that is correct. This one has got a walnut type dashboard, so that's a retrofit, a later fitment, presumably when the car was rebuilt around a new shell. Yeah, that should mean no rust issues. Let's see, door opens lovely, yeah, see all the proper, you've got all the proper seams there as well, which is the kind of thing you want to see on any car like this. Again, the seam at the front end of the sill there on the top, that's good to see. Doors, you're always looking for rust bubbling through on any car like this, not just Triumphs. But to buy a car that's been reshelled within sort of living memory is actually a pretty good way of going about buying one of these. I don't know the exact estimate this one, I think it's like 10, 12, that sort of ballpark, so it wasn't crazy money, and I think TR6s have softened a bit in prices over the last 2 or 3 years or so. So this could be a relatively affordable way into a hopefully rot-free, look at that, you've even got the proper seams there still, so hopefully a rot-free TR6 with a heritage body shell. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one does. Not sure I'd bother with these, to be honest, you could probably unbolt those, but it would stiffen the structure up a bit. Again, we're always looking around the inside of the doors on the seams where the door skin folds over the frame. Again, proper seams there. Nice edges here, no mud has been allowed to build up, because that's what causes most of the rust that you see on cars, is build up of mud, gets damp, and it stays damp thereafter pretty much. So yeah, very tidy, very presentable TR6, and I think that will make a really, really good buy, to be honest. I mustn't miss out this very tidy looking MGB, a V8 badge on the front, so we know this has got the Rover 3.5 under the bonnet. That might explain the louvers on the bonnet here, just to try and keep the cooling in check. Of course, the factory did offer the V8 powered MGB, this one on mini-light style wheels, identical to those on my dad's MGB GT. Pretty tasty car, I love the louvers though, that really just makes it look just that little bit different. Slightly larger diameter wheels, I'm guessing those are probably the same diameter as the wheels fitted to the MGC. Big pipe out the back, so I imagine this actually sounds pretty cool, and I know someone who would love the look of that, and I have to say that's one of the nicest looking MGBs I've seen in quite a while. I do like MGBs, and this one's just got a few little subtle mods. It's one of the few cars that mini lights actually suit, I think, and the louvers, they just look epic, I think. So I'll have a quick look inside, see what we can see in here. Yeah. All pretty much original. The interior light even works, that's a good sign. Yeah, I think this would be a bit of a hoot. Bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing. Most people would see this coming up in their mirror and assume it was a regular, let's just shut that properly. Yep, assume it's a regular B, but this one packs a bit of a punch. Great looking car, I do like that a lot. Right, okay. TR6 alongside, so what should you go for out of interest? Would you go for this? I'm not sure what the estimate is on this one, but probably similar to the TR6, maybe a bit more, about 15ish I would have thought. But yeah, would you go for that? Or would you go for the open top TR6 with the heritage shell? Interesting dilemma to have. Right, okay, now we go back slightly earlier in time. This is a 1934 Austin 7 Speedy. This is quite a late chrome red Austin 7. The following year they would switch to the painted radiator cowls of the Ruby, etc, etc. But this is the Austin 7 Speedy 1934. The estimate on this beauty, because it's such a rare car, is 25 to 30 I believe. So yeah, definitely at the top end of the Austin 7 market, but what a special little car this is. The original registration number with the proper letters. We like that kind of thing. I love these sort of extra bits here just to protect the seat occupants from some of the spray kicked up by the front wheels, because you've got cycle mudguards as opposed to full length mudguards or wings. That's very bonny little car. The racing style fuel filler there. What a bonny little thing this is. Beautiful tail to it as well, very, very streamlined in the 30s style. A nice curved registration plate to follow the curve of the tail. So that's always a nice little detail, I think. The little lamps, the pork pie lamps, one either side. But it all looks, when you look close in, everything looks to be in really nice condition. There's no claggy mud or build-up of grease, that kind of thing. It all looks nice. You've got the wrapped rear springs there. So clearly this has been in appreciative hands for a long time. You've got the pop-up trafficators there in the separate little boxes. There we go, all nice and clean in here. Again, with the wrapped front leaf spring. What a beauty. I wonder how many of these are still around. There can't be too many. I like the little notch there. And the number, top edge of the number plate. That's quite neat. Austin of England, of course, built in Longbridge. So many different Austin 7 variants, but this is definitely one of the more desirable. And I love the split V windscreen, very similar to that fitted to the old MG midgets, the M-type MGs, also of the 1930s, probably a contemporary of this little Austin. Yeah, very, very bonny little car, that one. Alright, so let's have another look at some pre-war cars. And we have this Amel car, beautiful French little car. Funny enough, I was only looking at one of these a week or so back. The Amel car CGS, this one from 1924. The estimate on this one is 30 to 40, so quite a broad range there. But a beautiful little French pre-war vintage car. The Marshall lamps, indeed an extra one in the middle there for a bit of added illuminance. You'd think it blocks the radiator quite a lot, but presumably it works all right. Yeah, lovely car. You've got the fixed starting handle here. Beautiful BF 8498. Like the little Austin 7. It's always nice to see super clean suspension and brake components. That shows that it's been looked after. This one looks super original, like that 22 Morris we were looking at, the Bullnose Morris. Not too shiny, not too polished up. This one sort of looks its age a bit, and I actually really, really like that. Sometimes you can go a bit over the top with your Brasso, polishing, and polishing some more. I like things to look just a little bit weathered in. Same with this beautiful, what a lovely screen that is. Cast V screen with these little curvy windows. And again, not too polished up, just sort of nicely mellowed. Same with the strip here. It's been painted at some point in time, but not for quite a long time. Fairly small. I always think it's nice how the passenger seat is sort of somewhat set back compared to the driver's seat. Beautiful machine turned dashboard, similar to that used in Bugattis. Lovely old gauges, look at that. Litre d'essence, so petrol in litres, that's the fuel gauge. Little speedo there. Wheel, so you got oil, presumably oil pressure with Amel car written on it, that's neat. Jaguar of Paris, the rev counter there, the reverse reading rev counter as it goes clockwise. Little ammeter, a clock over there. Water temperature gauge just over the end there. What a beautiful little car. Yeah, so similar ballpark to the little Austin 7 that we were looking at just a moment ago, somewhere in the 30s. That's actually a lovely little car. I do like that. So we've got the quarter elliptic springs on the back, just like the 1926 Amel car that I was looking at a few days ago. Nice footrest in there as well. Not a huge amount of foot room, so you'd obviously be wearing fairly small shoes if you were to buy this. Isn't it a beauty? What a lovely little thing. That is a delightful little car, I have to say. I've no involvement with the seller. I'm not saying that to try and get someone to bid on it. This is a totally impartial video, but yeah, that is a beauty. And how about this? Now, this is an interesting one. This is, I think it's like a recreation of an open top version of the Citroën Traction Evolve that was offered pre-World War II. This is an early 50s Slough built car, so right hand drive. I think this went to New Zealand. You can tell the Slough built cars, not just because it's right hand drive, but you've got the double chevrons, the Citroën logo there, but it's behind the vertical slats. On the French built cars, the chevrons are on the outside. But certainly a very, very stylish car. So it's an early 50s car that's been built to recreate a pre-war Tourer that was available back in the olden days. It's a very stylish looking thing. Look at that gear lever popping through the dash there. That's pretty incredible. Incroyable, as they would say. Yeah. The amount of work that's gone into making all this work, these rear hinge doors, beautiful pieces here made specially for it. Very nice indeed. Very stylish way of getting around. And the step here and here tells me that there is a dicky seat, a rumble seat, extra row of seating in the back there for carrying passengers. Lucky passengers if they get to ride in this beautiful Citroën. But what a great looking car. That really is. It's one of those cars that in the photos I wasn't entirely sure about, if I'm honest, but when I see it here now, the shape and the detailing on it really is, it's just really, really nice. Right, and alongside, wow, this is a very, very unusual car. This is a 1929, no, is it Benova B3. Yeah, 1929, it's a late vintage, left-hand drive, and the chances are you could probably get this for around 6. The estimate is 6 to 7, and this is a very interesting pre-war, just about vintage. So vintage here in the UK is up to and including 1930s, plus a list of slightly later cars. The VSCC, the Vintage Sports Car Club, came up with a vintage definition many decades ago, and they categorise any car up to and including 1930 as vintage. Then they have what they call the post-vintage thoroughbred list, where they grant vintage title to slightly later cars. So some of the chrome red Austin 7s, even though they are technically 1931 or 32, they are seen in the eyes of the VSCC and eligibility to take part in their competitions as vintage cars. But this one being 1929, this Barova, this is definitely vintage, and wow, I've never ever seen one of these before. It looks to be in super duper original condition, original paint. At least the black paint is original. I'm guessing the yellow has probably been added on maybe in the 1950s just to maybe jazz it up a little bit. Look at that wonderful sticker for road signs. I'll have a look at that. What's that? PIST pistol. Yeah, let's have a quick look. Now, there's a bit of a gap on the top of the door, so we'll be very ginger in opening that. Right, okay, that's okay. What a treat. Oh, I love that sticker. Isn't that just wonderful? Équipez votre moteur. So, fit your engine with pistons ISO. So ISO brand pistons made by Touron Brothers, Touron Frères, in Lyon. Wow, so maybe the engine in this one was rebuilt at some point in time, so they've given you this handy sticker to remind you what all the road signs mean. Wow, what an incredible thing. Look at this, lovely. I'm not sure, is that wood or is it metal that's been given a wood effect? Look, even the catches are just a treat to look at. I do love these little details, this kind of thing. Dinky little steering wheel and these very, very thin spokes are a bit of a treat. Oh, it's got a lovely sort of old car smell in here. Yeah, look at that door there. That is just lovely detailing. It really is nice. A lamp in the roof. Very, very simple seating. A sort of corduroy type trim. Looking its age, but you know, it's what, 1929, so it's nearly 100 years old, so I think we can forgive it a little bit of age. That's actually lovely. I love the way that curves around there. Got a fully equipped dashboard. Well, I can honestly say I know nothing about these cars. Look, it's got a split tailgate as well, I think. Is that separate? Yes. So we've got the little hinges here. So that lifts up. And then that comes down. So it's almost like a little delivery van as well. What an unusual little car. What would you do with that? Would you fully restore it, or would you just oily rag it and keep it as it is? I'm sure there'll be a bit of restoration work to do. Gingerly open the door. There's a little bit of movement, but I think, certainly this side, there's a little bit of movement, but it's in the hinge. The hinge down there, and one up there. But the play is actually in the hinge, not in the pillar, so that's good. But I love the dash in this and the detail. These door trims, just wonderful. Yeah, the play is mostly in the hinge, so that's, I think if you put new pins in there and the little balls and pins in there, that would get the door lining up again as it should do. Fuel tank on the scuttle. So presumably gravity fuel feed. Wow, what a thing. Isn't that just lovely? One of those oddball little French cars that you never see these in the UK. I can't imagine there are any others. There's the company. Either built the radiator originally, or maybe they refurbished it at some point. But either way, yeah, what a great little thing. The Benova. And talking of unusual French little cars, we've got this Donnet-Zedel, I think it is. Apologies if my pronunciation is a little awry on that one. Again, it's not a car I really know anything about at all, so you'll have to forgive me for that one. But this one dates to 1925, so it's 4 years older than the little car alongside it. This one looks like it has seen some restoration in more recent times. So yeah, 1925. Donnet-Zedel G2 model apparently. Estimate on this 7 to 10. A fabric bodied saloon, just like that Riley 9 Monaco we were looking at. The estimate on the little Benova, that was 6 to 7. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets to that. So 6 to 7 on that one, and 7 to 10 on this one. Goodwood Road Racing Club member, 2021 Bugatti Owners Club. So presumably this has appeared at Prescott events, I would imagine, because the Bugatti Owners Club is based down at Prescott. BF7073. So this is a British UK registration issued in fairly recent times to a car like this one that's been imported. It's been beautifully sort of sign written to give it the aged look. Nice little reflector as well. Right hand drive, that's quite unusual. Lovely nickel plated fittings. Yeah, nice. Opens very nicely, we'll just open it carefully. Retrimmed seats. There's the bulb for the hooter, the rubber bulb to operate the horn out there. Again, lovely, very delicate steering wheel. Lots of nickel plated fittings there. Very nice. Shuts well too, but yeah, fabric body, fabric covering over an ash frame, so you can feel where the frame is. It doesn't go in there, but it does go in there. Roof looks pretty good as well. Big visor on these, so that will protect you from the sun, assuming we get any more now. Can't do much for the top speed, but I guess you're not going to be setting any speed records with this. Yeah, what a great pair of French vintage cars. Right, I'll try and pick up the pace a little bit. Here we have, I think it's 1954 Sunbeam Alpine, the Mark 1, the sporting Sunbeam Alpine. Estimate on this beauty is 30 to 40, which is obviously a lot more than you'd pay for a similar contemporary Sunbeam Talbot 90. But these were quite special cars in the time, very sporting, popular choice for Monte Carlo rally action in the 1950s. And you couldn't restore a rough one of these for the kind of money that this one will probably go for. Stunning car. No exterior door handles on this one either. Well, Roots certainly knew how to do an attractive interior in the 1950s. What a beautiful car, and a very fetching metallic blue. So I do like that one a lot. You may have noticed a bright yellowy orange car in the background. So I think we'll have a look at that and then work our way along there. Like I say, I need to get on with this a bit. Now, what is the story with this Austin? Presumably it was an A30 sometimes. Someone started making it into a bit of a speedster. And, clearly a bit of finishing off to do there. Yep, certainly a distinctive look. Various bits and pieces in there. Yeah. I mean, BMC did dabble with the idea of doing a convertible soft-top version of the Austin A30, and that sole example of that is down at the British Motor Museum at Gaydon. If you check out the video I did down at Gaydon a year or two back, you'll see it in there, and that was bright yellow. So maybe this car, the build of this car, was inspired by that, but more than that I cannot really tell you. Right, I'm not entirely sure what that is. We have a BMW iZeta over here with added grills on the front, the little three-wheeler from the late 1950s. Right, now we are back to pre-war Rileys, several of which are in this upcoming auction. This is a Riley 12.4 Merlin four-door saloon from the sort of mid to late 1930s. Yep, what a cracker this is. Estimate 9 to 11, dates to 1936. Very practical, very usable, slightly larger, slightly more powerful than the Riley 9s. This has got the 12-horse engine. That looks beautiful, you know. You watch TV and everyone, not everyone, but lots of people say, oh, pre-war cars, no one's interested in them. Well, that's not true. The prices may have softened a little bit on pre-war cars, but they are still selling. People are still looking for these kind of things. You don't have to remember growing up with a particular car to want to own one. Most of the old cars I've owned have been way before my formative years. So I simply don't buy the idea that everyone buys old cars based on nostalgia for things they remember in their youth. I just don't believe that's the case. If you appreciate engineering and things that are properly put together with beautiful, distinctive styling, and you want a little bit of a challenge maybe, something to sort of work on, look after and take out, then that's the kind of thing to have in mind when you're buying a car like this, because you would have an awful lot of enjoyment owning something like this. And if you're thinking of dipping your toe into the pre-war car world, you could do a lot worse than this stunning little Riley. Right, let's carry on. Fiat 124 Spider here. I think we saw this one here last time. Yep, I remember that very distinctive hardtop, the likes of which I've never seen before. Quite a stylish thing. Very wraparound rear screen, glass as well. It's not fiberglass, not perspex. These early 124s with the chrome bumpers, they really do look very nice indeed. The Pininfarina badge on the rear wing there. And yeah, an interesting alternative to maybe an MGB Roadster. Arguably, possibly a little bit more stylish. I'd certainly think about one of those if I was in the market for a two-seater. So we have two-seaters, MGB alongside, somewhat modified console Cortina, Lotus badging. Is this a Lotus Cortina? Is it an early Lotus Cortina? Or is it a car that's been built up as? I'm not quite sure, but again, all the details will be on the Brightwells website. Here we've got the little MG version of the AD016. It's on a J plate, MG 1100 or 1300, both with the transverse A series engine. This a two-door car. So this is the 1300. So it's got a 1275 twin carb engine, very similar to that fitted in the Mini Cooper and the Cooper S. So if you want a Cooper S, but you've got a family to carry around, or you just want a bit more space, one of these really is a good option. Just buy a good one. That's the only thing I'd say about these. Buy a good one. Right, MGB higher roofline of the GT evident here. The GT was a Pininfarina rework of the original BMC MGB Roadster. This one looks a very nice colour as well, actually very, very eye-catching colour. And I always think on cars like this, you really want a nice, bright, cheerful colour. This is an incredible car, built in more recent times. It reminds me a bit of a Panther. I don't think it is, but clearly it's built in the spirit of a pre-war SS100 or something like that. Interesting to see. And look at this, the little Vandenplas 1500, the VDP version of the Allegro. This followed on from the little Vandenplas 1300 based on the 1100 and 1300, but to replace that they took the basic Allegro shape and sort of put this grille on the front, which was not exactly a seamless fitting, I would suggest, but quite a distinctive car. Probably quite rare to find a decent one. And as with all these little Vandenplasses, very well appointed, one dash, leather seats, full length roof, and this one vinyl roof too. Yeah. I'm sure many of you watching this video remember Austin Allegros and the different variations of. Who remembers the Allegro 3 and the Equipe limited edition Super Vroom? Yes. Next up, slightly older, not by much. This is the Rover P5B on a K plate, so 71, 72-ish. This is the P5B Coupe. 3.5 litre, but with a lower roofline, still 4-door, but lower roofline, as was a thing with the P5 and P5B Coupe. Ross style wheels, standard fitment on these. I used to have a saloon version of one of these, ran that for a while. Very, very agreeable. The toolkit for these is under the dash, just over there. That horizontal silver thing you can see, that pulls out. You've got gives you a tray to put your cups on. Pull it out a bit further and it's got the toolkit in. Coupes also have these extra instruments down below the main binnacle, so that those 4 extra gauges below the main instrument pod, those are a coupe thing. The saloons didn't have those. Looks like a very usable car. Paint's got a bit of age to it, but there is a shine there, it's not too bad. Chrome's okay. Big chunky fella. You always want to check inside the rear door shuts on these. Big heavy doors, and they always smell. They always have a very distinctive smell. There's something about P5s that the smell of the leather seems to be almost unique to them. Yeah, you always want to have a good look down here, because this is where they can rot out. This one feels pretty solid. So me down here. Yeah, they've got a very distinctive smell. I'm not sure what it is, what the reasoning is for that. Yeah, lovely. Look at these little opening quarter lights in the back doors, and they shut with a beautiful heavy clunk. Real solid old girls these are. I do like a nice P5, or in this case P5B, B for Buick. This Alvis, now we have seen this one before. This is a TF21, and there's only about 80 of these fixed head versions made, so it's a pretty rare car. There is an information sheet in the window of this one. It's a very original car, needs a bit of catching, a bit of things to do. If you like your old Alvises, check out the video I did with Chris Prince a year or two back. He is a big fan of these, buys and sells them, supplies parts for them. The estimate here is 20 to 25, but I think it's a little bit less now. I think it's in the mid-teens now, which seems about right, given that it's probably a usable car, but it is going to need a little bit of attention around the edges before too long. Yeah, what a handsome car. Beautiful looking things, I think these are. Vauxhall Viva HA, so the first era of Vauxhall Viva. This one's a beauty from the mid 1960s. Let's have a quick look in here, because you don't see too many good ones of these around. Super clean, the original carpets, a little bit faded, but it's great to see the original carpets. And let's not forget, this has been in there since 1965, so I think you can forgive it a bit of fading here and there. Yeah, wow, pretty basic motoring, but plenty of room for four, quite a big back seat, quite a big boot as well. And this one looks in nice nick. Yep, door shuts well. Pretty unusual car, a bit of a left field choice perhaps now, because you very rarely see these. If anything, you tend to see more of the HA vans, the Bedford HA vans. But these little saloons, which I think were all two doors, I don't think they ever did a four door, pretty thin on the ground now. Okie dokie, next to that, lovely Triumph Renown, this one from about 1950 I believe, lots and lots of chrome there, all in very good condition as well. That's good to see. Let's just have a quick look at this one. The estimate on this one off the top of my head is about 8 to 10. It's a real quality car, beautifully built, slightly bigger than the Mayflower, arguably a lot happier looking than the Mayflower. I was never really a Mayflower fan, if I'm honest. I always thought the Renowns were just a bit more balanced, a bit longer. These were variously marketed as the Triumph 2000 Saloon, the Renown. Some were even called the Town and Country, and there was like a limousine version as well, I believe. I think I saw one of those at Weston Park. This is a lovely car, very much sort of pre-war construction, but built in the years immediately after the Second World War, just to get the car companies back on their feet again. This is a lovely car. Looks like it's been retrimmed and done to a very nice standard as well. I think the estimate on this is about 10, somewhere up that neck of the woods, but you couldn't restore a ropey one for anything like that kind of money. So if you want a nice quality, distinctive, fairly rare, but not so rare that they're impossible to run saloon, maybe this is one to have a think about. Like I say, I've got no link to any of the cars that are up for sale in the upcoming auction. I'm just saying it as I see it. Right, here we've got a 59 Plymouth Fury Suburban, so the estate car, the station wagon version. What a thing. That is enormous. What an incredible thing. I like these pads on the lower tailgate, so that drops down and they sit on the overriders there. So that's quite neat. Curvy rear side glass, just like you see on Hawk estates and the Vauxhall Victor F-Type estates. But this is the mighty American Plymouth Fury. What a thing. That certainly takes up a bit of square footage. Very, very distinctive car. I wonder how long this one's been here in the UK. It's a left-hand drive, so presumably imported at some point in time. What a beast. What a monster that is. Incredible looking car. But I do love an old estate car. So if I was going to buy a Plymouth Fury, I would probably be looking for one of these mighty estates. Isn't that just bonkers? You could easily kip in the back of there. How much space is in there? It's incredible. So you've got hubcaps on there. There are some full width trims in the back there. It is ginormous. What a thing. Looks like the remains of an old oil change sticker on the door shut there. The door shuts very nicely. Looks to be pretty solid actually. What an incredible car. Right, we'll try and do both these rows at once. Land Rover over here, is that Series 3? I think so, it's on an X registration, so early 1980s. Looks pretty clean. The tilt on the back, the canvas tilt, looks like it's been replaced, so that's nice. Always good to see one of those looking good, as it should do. Yeah. Nice in there. Let's go around the back. So like I was saying before, when we were looking at the Austin Gypsy, Land Rovers mainly aluminium. The chassis underneath is steel. They can go a bit frilly. Same for the bulkhead here, where the doors hinge on. This is steel. So you always have to have a good look down there just to make sure things are happy. But yeah, this is a very nicely turned out example. The immaculate dolly, the 1500 HL. So the engine in this one is very similar to that in the last of the Spitfires, the 1500 unit, which was originally the standard SC engine, the standard 8 engine of 803, and it was gradually enlarged until this one, which was about 1493, I think, cc, or 1496, somewhere. Yeah, I think 1493 cc. You don't see too many good dollies around, and most of the good ones you see tend to be the dolly sprints, because those are the ones that are worth, you know, the money to justify an expensive rebuild. And this one, the 1500 HL, arguably probably be a bit less temperamental to run. These engines usually go pretty well. You have to watch the crankshaft thrust washers on these, a bit like on the big 2.5 engines as well. You have to watch it, but this one, these arches, they just feel like new. Sills, I mean, obviously I've not got underneath, so don't take my word for it, I'm just going off what I see in front of me. Just a little bit there, but very little. Yeah. Really, really usable, almost modern classic. Yeah, I do like that actually. So a quick look at the back arch. Yep, nice as well. Not full of filler or mud or any of that sort of stuff that you don't really want. Let's have a quick look in here. Again, nice around the door skins, sills. What's the mileage? Let's just have a quick look at the mileage. It's showing 42,042, so it's probably original. Don't quote me on that, but I'm guessing that's probably original. 42,000 miles showing. That's, yeah, a lovely car. I'll definitely have that. Right, there's an interesting little machine here. I'm not quite sure what we're looking at here. So yeah, the website will give you all the details on that one. With a B here in black, quite unusual. It's got Downton badging on it. So Downton Engineering was a tuning company back in the 1960s, set up by a gentleman called Daniel Richmond. Oh, this is MGC, so it's a Downton tuned MGC Roadster. That's the official description. Yeah, Daniel Richmond, he used to tune up minis and all sorts of things. Nice British Automobile Racing Club badge there. So imagine that goes quite nicely. There's an MGC GT with Downton mods that pops up at some of the local meetings that we get to near home. Yeah, good looking car. It's got the extra hump for the 6-cylinder bonnet of the MGC, the BMC 3-litre engine that's nestling under there. Torsion bar front suspension on these. There was a lot of work went into the MGB body shell in order to shoehorn in the big heavy C-Series engine. Makes it quite a good long distance tourer. Not so much a sports car because they're a bit nose heavy, but very, very nice cars. Make a glorious sound as well. Right, let's keep going. A Mini 30. And as I was saying, this is the seam to have a look at. This one's got a bit of bubbling going on there. So, a bit of a project, a Mini 30, but presumably estimated bearing that in mind. Not too many of these around now. Most of the ones you see have already been restored. So if you want to do a Mini 30, maybe to complete your collection of classic era minis, maybe have a read up on this one, but you're going to need wings and a bit of work below the screen before too long. Another one of the booted minis. Is this the Riley Elf or the Wolseley Hornet? It is the Riley Elf. Very similar to the one we were looking at before. Is that the last time it was on the road, I wonder? A 1978 tax disc. I think it's a Mark III again. Yep, Mark III, hidden door hinges. Next to that, the Merc 300D. So this is the E-Class Mercedes, the W123 era of Mercedes-Benz supercars. It's great to see one without the shiny wheel arch trims that people often nail onto old Mercs of this era to hide the rust. No such shenanigans going on here. That all feels proper. Yep, so this is the big diesel engine version, which would probably go on forever, I would imagine. Got a Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit, dwarfing a Fiat 500 behind it. This is an L plate, so early 1970s. Crop lock. Still use one of those occasionally. It's a little rear engine car, of course. I love that old original metal plate. That just looks absolutely perfect. Right, let's keep her going down here. There's the Silver Spirit, presumably a wedding car at some point in time. Got a Ford Capri. Is this a Capri 2? Let's have a look around the front. It's very distinctive styling up. Capri 2. Hatchback Ford Capri. This one on an S registration. Some pretty meaty wheels on there. Yep, the full opening hatchback on these. Auto box. It's interesting really that the prices of Capris, apart from like the really sporty ones like the RS 3.1s and some of the later 2.8s, they haven't gone crazy. So many Fords, fast Fords have gone, the prices have gone stratospheric, thinking, you know, your XR3Is and your Sierra Cosworths, that kind of thing, but a lot of the Capris are still reasonably priced. They're not cheap anymore, especially, you know, good ones, but they're not quite as mad as I thought maybe they would do. Anyway, let's carry along here. About 1984, this is a Fiesta Popular Plus 1.1. Very original, looks like it's got the old dealer plates on it still. So the old Ford Fiesta Mark II. What's the indicated mileage? Is that 90? No, something 9831, so I can't quite see what the mileage is. Yeah. Very usable later car. You could use that every day. Yeah, if you just look after it, keep it clean, spread a bit of oil underneath it just to protect the wheel arches and the sills, that kind of thing. There's no reason why you couldn't keep running that every day. And to be honest, it'd be better off being run every day. Cars don't like sitting around very much. There's a little Metro here, the 1.1L. Pretty tasty set of wheels on this one. This is an MGTF replica. Yeah, pretty convincing. Right, let's go past this extremely distinctive Austin A30. Maybe we should have a quick look at some motorcycles. There's quite the assortment tucked away over in the corner here. We've got a, what's this, a BSA, the AA BSA with the sidecar and all the tools would have been in the back of there. Well, there's all the literature is in the office, old AA handbook, MOTs, bits and bobs. Good old Beezer, old tax disc on there. I wonder if this one's got the original, yeah, the old Pyrene pump. We've got an old Pyrene pump there. I've actually got one of the original AA ones. The AA versions of the Pyrene pumps had little raised AA letters on here, actually pressed into the top piece. I found one of those years ago, and that's in the cabinet of delights back at home. Yeah, good to see this preserved AA setup here. Triumph, another Beezer there. Slightly later machines here and there. Look at this wonderful Sunbeam. I'm going to guess at S7. Still with its 1953 tax disc. What a beauty that is. Very distinctive engine casings on these. Beautiful. Look at that original supplying dealer transfer. What a treat to see that. C.E. Tunbridge. So you can definitely research that and find out where this came from. Is this shaft drive? I think it is, isn't it? Let's just get down here. Look at that beautiful engine. Yep, so we've got shaft drive, so not a chain. We've got this shaft with the universal joints there. Yeah, interesting. That's something you often see on Motor Gutses, but not so much on British bikes. Yeah, no chain on this one. Looks very, very original. We like that kind of thing. Beautiful castings. This would clean up a treat if you fancied a little project over the winter. Bit of polishing, bit of prepping. But yeah, proper original saddle. I bet that could tell a few stories. And they don't go for huge money, these old bikes now. There's a little BSA Bantam Major next to the BSA. But walking around before, I was really taken with this incredible new Hudson. That is wonderful. Harley's a big fan of these early pre-war motorbikes, and I can well see why. The detailing on them, just look at the lamp, the detailing on them, the fact they don't take up a huge amount of space as well, makes these very, very appealing. Still got its 1948 tax disc, so velologists out there will love that. But yeah, this one looks super original. You got a little Lucas mag there, new Hudson in the casting. Yeah, there's a conventional chain drive on this. Lovely little toolkit there, built in between the frame and the rear mudguard. The original seat, never been touched. Look at the rear lamp on there. Oh, lovely little jewelled lens on there as well. RL4317. Let's just sneak down here and have a look. Yeah, I bet this one could tell a story or two as well. It's got a new HT lead on it, going from the plug down to the mag. So I wonder if someone's had this running in recent times, who knows. There's the feed for the lamp on the front, the same setup on the rear. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. Hand gear change as well. Worn out remains of the new Hudson transfer just on the tank. Proper oily ragger. And what a beautiful thing to see. Behind that, restored BSA and the mighty American Harley Davidson. Now, regulars will know I do like an old commercial vehicle. This is a wartime Bedford, an MW Bedford. So this would have been built up sometime during the Second World War, and then once the war was over, would have been auctioned off at one of the big disposal sales that took place following the Second World War, and then this went into civilian ownership, probably with a garage. Many of these were fitted with breakdown cranes and so on, and I bet this has got quite a story. Very distinctive styling, if you can call it that, on the front of the military Bedfords, the wartime Bedfords, compared to their civilian equivalents with the very nice curvy wings, curvy nose cone lights and so on. This was a lot simpler. I think it was a lot quicker to produce and get out the factory doors, especially during the war obviously, and also a lot easier to fix out in the field. If you bent it, if you ran it into a tree or the back of an Avro Lancaster, you could straighten it out fairly easily. What a treat to see that one. So early 1940s is the date of that. It's a short wheelbase truck. This body on the back is probably something that was fitted following the Second World War. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, Bedford MW 1940, so the same year as our big old Dodge at home, and that also saw life in the services during the Second World War. Austin 8 is being moved on a little trolley thing over there, but yeah, what a great little thing this is. It's not too big either, it's not too long. That would fit in any driveway. Might be a bit tall for your average garage, but yeah, not to worry. Let's have a quick look in here because you don't see these around very often at all. I'm conscious of the time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it this far, don't forget to leave a comment. Please give it a like if you found this of interest. I'm kind of making it up on the fly as I go around because it's only me here today. Right, let's just have a quick dash around some of the more modern cars. Most of these are kind of out of the scope for the old classic car channel and website, most of them being a little bit later, but we'll just have a quick look. And like I say, you'll find all the details on the main Brightwells website, brightwells.com. A couple of Porsche 968s here, one an open top car, this closed coupe. These were evolutions of the old Porsche 944. My abiding memory of one of these is when my Saab, which I parked in the works car park back when I had a real job many years ago, it rolled off down the car park and embedded itself in the back of one of the directors' brand new Porsche 968 Club Sports, which was a little unfortunate. Porsche 928 here, the front engine GT with its V8 engine. Let's just keep going up here, see what other oldies we can spot. Capri, 1985. Quite a few Porsches. This one's a great colour, and it looks pretty purposeful with that wing on the back. Lots of more recent Porsches don't really do much for me, but that does actually look, yeah, I could see myself in that maybe. Right, I've got an R129 Mercedes-Benz SL, another open top Merc there. Let's keep going, see what we can see. A 7 Series, one of the E38 BMW 7, I think it's a 728, that one. RS6 Audi, Bentley Continental GT convertible, Bentley Mulsanne over there. This chunky little Toyota Land Cruiser. I think I featured this one in the previous upload. I said then that I think these are very, very characterful things. Yep. Mitsubishi 3000 GTO, Mazda MX-3. Some very distinctive, very in period stickers on it. I don't remember ever seeing those back in the day. Bit of a fixer-upper, but quite a rare car, I imagine. Those little coupes. Got a Ford Escort RS Turbo on an F plate. MR2, Toyota MR2s, Mark III, and a Mark 1 alongside. RS Turbo, that's a Series 2 RS Turbo. Oof, Jaguar XJ. Well, I say Jaguar, of course it's the Daimler Double Six. Double Six being a name that Daimler used in the pre-war years to identify their V12 powered cars, and they carried on that tradition with this, which was obviously based on the Series 3 Jaguar XJ range. But the Daimler, a little bit plusher, same 5.3 litre V12. And like the MGB GT, which was a Pininfarina rework of an older design, that's the same case here. Pininfarina took the old Series 2 XJ, raised the roofline, modernised it a little bit, different backlights, bumpers and so on, and came up with this, the Series 3, and this, good ones of these are really stunning looking cars. The more I see them, the more they're sort of growing on me. I remember Dad had a couple of these back in the day. It was 6, and then he had the Jaguar XJ12 HE, about the same time I had my Series 1 XJ12, so they were always good to photograph together, but this one appears to be in wonderful condition. You always have to look out for a bit of the metal moth on Jaguars of this era. Beautiful shape, and the way the tail sort of tapers down. Twin fuel tanks, of course, in these, one in either rear wing. Pepper pot alloy wheels. These strips I think were a Daimler thing. I'm not sure if Jaguars ever had those, but they may have done. Auto box, these were all autos. The bonnet is propped up, so let's have a quick look. There is the mighty V12 engine, fuel injected by this point in time. There's all the injection system, so yeah, plenty going on there. There's the air conditioning compressor just in the middle over there. So long fingers are quite useful when you're working on one of these, but that's one of the all-time great engines. To think Jaguar mass-produced the V12, and there aren't too many car manufacturers that can say they put these into mass production. Ferrari had V12s, BMW did, I suppose, with the 7 Series and the 8 Coupes, they were available with V12s, but Jaguar doing V12s in their saloons in the early 1970s when no one else really was. Right, let's carry on down here. We've got this buggy, very unusual looking VW powered buggy there. MX-5 Mark 1, one of the Barclay limited editions, complete with factory hardtop. I wouldn't mind a hardtop for ours actually. You always have to have a close look at the sills on these to be sure of what you're getting, with the Mark 1 alongside it. Yep, there's the two 968 Porsches. So what's that? Toyota, really not my era, can't really help you with that. That's a Toyota Supra, and a slightly earlier Supra alongside that, dwarfed by the wondrous Bedford in front of them. Now, such is the size of this particular sale coming up in just a few days' time. Quite a few cars are parked outside here in the main yard, so let's go and check out some of those and see what we've got. We've got a lineup of 4 classic post-war British cars in front of me here, so let's take a close look at those one at a time. And here they are, headed up by a good old Morris 1000. So it's this late 50s, beginning of the 1960s. Looks like a pretty original car, 4-door. It's had wings at some point, I would suspect. Most of the paint is original. The wings have been painted, obviously, but a lot of the paint is original. I'm guessing the sills look original as well. Got the original bit of worn paint there, still with the jacking point. The jacking point is on the end of the cross member, and that is always something that you want to have a very close look at when thinking about buying a Morris Minor, because they can get a bit frilly under there. The original registration number still on it, and indeed the original plates. The Homo high grade plate, to be precise. I've never heard of that brand of number plate before. It's a new one on me, and I'm sure I would have remembered that. But yeah, pretty clean, very tidy car. Looks like a good user. Again, looks like the wings have been done at some point in time, changed. This one is original, but I think 3 of the wings have probably been replaced, so that's not necessarily a bad thing at all. And if we can get in, have a look inside, see what we can see in there. Is it open? It is indeed. Door opens nicely. Not bad down here either. That's what you want to see. Oh, lovely and very original looking seats. It smells just like a proper old 50s Austin or Morris in here. Nice sprung steering wheel. Later cars wouldn't have that sprung wheel, but they really look nice, I think. Yeah. Remains of the original supplying dealer in Hereford. So we're in Herefordshire now, and Hereford is just down the A49 from here, so it looks like it's spent most of its life in Shropshire. Of course, built at Cowley at the Morris factory, and that shuts nicely actually. Some Morris Minors, the doors don't always shut great on Moggies. They can be a bit rattly and a bit hit and miss, but that one actually shuts really nicely. You can see the reflection perhaps of another Morris Minor in the distance, but we'll have a look at that after. Right, next up, the Riley Pathfinder. These were quite unusual. The styling, and I think the body shell was similar, very similar to that of the Wolseley 690. Quite a big car. Engine in these is the 2.5 litre twin cam engine from the Riley RMF. So this was the replacement for the RMF. Still with the pale blue background denoting the 2.5 litre engine car. You don't see too many of these around now, so this is a bit of a fixer-up. I want a bit of TLC, but it's a rare old thing. Be interesting to see what this goes for. Right hand gear change, column, what am I saying? One piece bench seat, that's the word I was trying to think of, bench seat, and the floor change over on the right down here. Yeah. Very, very unusual car. Whether it's a runner or not, I'm not quite sure. But certainly not something you clap eyes on very often now. Quite distinctive hubcaps on these as well. Those are the proper hubcaps. Yeah, a bit of a fixer-upper. Hopefully someone will put that on the road and get some use out of it, because the chances are you won't see another one at any show you take it to outside of a Riley Club gathering. This is the Rover 110. This looks pretty original as well. The P4, the straight 6 engine P4. I'm guessing this is largely original paint. I think this will probably polish up a bit. In many cases I'd rather see original slightly faded paint. Yeah, you see, look at this. You can see where people's fingers have rubbed. If you just rub that, it comes off. So I think there is probably something of a shine to be found underneath that slightly faded grey overcoat. 5533 UN, lovely distinctive registration, UN being a Welsh area registration, I think. So rear hinge back doors, as was the case on all P4s. Early P4s had aluminium skin doors, later cars were steel skinned. Yeah, lovely quality cars these were. Yeah, jolly nice. I like the Rover pads on the pedals there. Never like to slam a door. Right, and on the end here, little Austin 8. Not quite sure what size engine these were, sort of about 1000cc, maybe 1100. There was the Austin 8 and a very similar looking Austin 10. These were built either side of the Second World War. Pretty similar looking to the Austin 10. The 10 had slightly larger headlamps compared to the 8 that we are looking at here. And the other key difference, certainly externally, is the fact that the 8 had a one-piece rear window, whereas the 10 had a two-piece rear window, similar to that of the late 30s Austin 10 Cambridge. But this is the smaller engined 8. Got a bonny little car, lots of character. Whether it's a runner or not, I'm not quite sure. I think it is. I think it said it's a runner. Paint has got some age to it. Not perfect, but looks half decent to me. Right, let's keep going down here. Yes, there is some more Morris Minor action down here. There's that grey one. And here, a somewhat later, late 1960s, so about 1968ish, another four-door car. This one looks like a bit of a project. I imagine it's no reserve, or if there is an estimate on it, it's not going to be very high. Nice, it's got those old full-width trims on behind the hubcaps. Yeah, bit of TLC required. Kind of thinking most of the restored and preserved saloons we see at shows are two doors, so it'd be nice to think that this four-door gets saved. Still got a jacking point on it, but I've not been underneath, so don't quote me on that. A little bit tight on the door hinges, which suggests it's been sat quite a long time. Proper barn find spec Morris Minor 1000. There's another one being moved over there. I guess those trolley things are quite handy. Yeah, neat to see. Nice to see these old plates, probably fitted in the early 1970s when reflective plates were becoming a bit of a thing. Yeah, always want to have a good closer look round here just to make sure that it's not bad. Yeah, so Morris Minor project there, so if you're after a Morris Minor, an up and running car, you'll probably find one here, and indeed project cars as well. We are back to Triumph TRs, this the TR7 drop head coupe. Again, looks like a bit of a project. It's seen some paintwork at some point in the past, so assume that's a bit of a fixer-upper. A little mini Clubman estate here. I think this one came in from South Africa. Yep. Neat little thing. Definitely wants putting back on the road. They're not going to make any more of those. Big tractor just coming past. The busy A49 is just over there, so I hope you can hear me okay. Alfa Romeo here. There's a GTV 2-litre twin spark, modern classic. It's a 3 Series here, one of the 316i compacts based on the BMW E36. These are popular in sort of clubby motorsport. Something to do with the rear suspension, I think, is based on the earlier E30 with these compacts, the little hatchback version of the 3 Series BMW. Got an E46 era, so the E46 3 Series BMW that we're looking at there replaced this, the E36. So that was the older car, and this is the one that came along to replace it. This is a convertible, good looking car, I think, 20 years old now, but definitely a good looking car. So that's an open top example. We've got a coupe alongside that, again E46 with some AC Schnitzer upgrades on there. Like I say, full details on the website, I imagine. BMW Z4 with an R129 Mercedes-Benz SL. Quite a few cars here in this auction. It's one packed sale. It's amazing where all these cars are coming from. AMG badging. Another R129 here. No clues on the back there as to which engine is fitted. But nice car. And we are back to faded maroon Morris Minors, but this time a 2-door. So if you'd rather a 2-door, maybe think about this one if you're after a project. The 4-door was just up the way there, and here is its 2-door brother. Again, looks super original. Bit of a barn find job again, this one. It's got an 88, is that 1988 tax disc in the window, maybe giving us a clue as to when this gem was last on the road. If it's been laid up for 30 odd years, it's not done too bad in many respects. I've seen a lot worse than this. Obviously the office here at Brightwells, they'll be able to tell you the full situation with regards to paperwork, history, all that kind of thing with any of the cars. A couple of extra gauges have been fitted to this one at some point in time. Yeah, there we go. Like I say, viewing days won't be too far away. Lots of keys. So we've got a Merc, C-Class Merc there. W124 Saloon, so that's an E-Class Mercedes of the 1980s/1990s. They were produced for quite a long time. This is one of the pre-facelift W124s. The slightly later examples had a smaller grille compared to what we're looking at there. Talking of which, this is a slightly later 124 with the smaller grille, so you can see how this one is quite pronounced and proud of the top of the bonnet, whereas this one is a little bit more flush. So that tells us this is a later 124. This is a convertible version. Beautiful cars, really well made car. This, the E220. Right, what have we got here? Merc limo. So this was the era of E-Class Mercedes that replaced this, the 124. This is a stretched limo. It appears to have one or two glazing issues. So what there, I almost don't want to look in here. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So quite what the future holds for that one is anyone's guess. Anyway, let's have a bit of a scoot round. We've got some later cars here. P38 Range G, 2 of, slightly later one there. Is that the 322? Silver Spirit, or is it the Spur? Let's just have a quick look round the back. There was the Spur, which was a slightly higher spec, slightly longer. No, this is the Spirit in black with vinyl roof. Needs a bit of TLC on the roof. Got an XJS here, XJS Coupe. Bit of a fixer-upper this one. Auto. I assume this is in the next sale. The catalogue will give you all the details. We've got a BX here, looks like it's been sat for a little while. The BX 16 valve Citroen BX, the BX GTI. So I can imagine, I can see a few people getting quite excited over that because they've got quite the loyal following now. That one definitely wants saving. Very distinctive alloy wheels on the GTI version of the Citroen BX. So yeah, it'd be nice to think that one will see the road again. The Peugeot, the mighty Citroen. So let's see. I always get these mixed up. Is it C5 or C6? Let's have a look. Quite an interesting looking thing. A few nods back to the old Citroen. Alright, so it's a C6. And this concave rear screen is a nod back to the old Citroen CX. The Jaguar S-Type. Ford Escort. Quite a clean 5-door Ford Escort. The 2-door Escort Estate based on the Mark IV with the XR3i wheels. Yeah, probably quite a rare car that now, those 2-door Estates. You certainly don't see those very often at shows. We've got the 3-door hatch version of the Mark IV Escort there. Golf Mark IV, which one's that? I know some of these are quite sought after. Dad's got a V5 version of one of these. This is the V6 4Motion. 4-wheel drive V6 no less. Let's carry on along here. The old Vauxhall Carlton. By gum, you don't see them very often now. I remember buying an Estate one of those as a bit of a fixer-upper. I never did get it to run. I tried an engine swap, bought another engine, but it didn't quite fit and everything was just against me, so I gave up on that. Right, Rover 75. The Saab 900 Cabriolet, the front wheel drive, the so-called classic Saab 900. These were made into convertibles by, I think it was a company in America that actually did the conversion on behalf of Saab. Quite a nice car if you're after a 4-seat cabriolet. You could do a lot worse than one of these. Of course, the good old Mini. These have got quite the following now. Some of these early BMW era Minis. You say BMW era, these were put into production I think after BMW took over Rover, but the basic design was actually a Rover design. Rover were well down the road in designing this, the modern Mini, when BMW took them over and saw the car into final production. But yeah, that's pretty neat. We've got an MGTF with hardtop here, and on the end a little Alfa Spider. And over here, you won't be in Herefordshire at an auction without seeing at least one grey Fergie, the fantastic grey Fergie. Look at these, on both sides, the original supplying dealer plaque, RP Ravenhill Limited, Ford and Fordson dealers of Hereford. We recommend Vixol lubricants. How fantastic is that? What a belter. So this is, I think it's a regular petrol, probably a TEA A TED, this one, you can just about make it out on the little plaque there. Yeah. Sort of cargo box type thing on the back. We had one of those with ours. I well remember riding in those when we used to go on holiday in South Wales. We used to have rides to the beach in one of those on the back of a grey Fergie, just like this one. So folks, there we go. That is my quick, or perhaps not so quick, look at all the cars I think entered into the upcoming Brightwells auction down here in Leominster. Like I say, public viewing days are coming up fairly soon, so if there's anything that really floats your boat from in here or out in the yard, get in touch with the office, find out the dates for the viewing and come and have a look for yourself, because that is the best thing to do if you're thinking of bidding on any of the cars featured in this video. So again, big thanks to Brightwells for letting me come here, have a bit of a mooch around and admire the many cars that they have on sale. In just a few days time, like I say, the auction opens for registration this coming Saturday around late morning. I think that probably starts, and the auction runs through to Wednesday next week, when the auctions start to close off throughout the day. Online auction, so it gives you plenty of time to have a think, see how the bids are doing before registering and indeed putting in your bid if you so wish. Like I say, let me know in the comments which of the cars here really float your boat. What car do I really like? There are several candidates, probably over the back over here. I do like that little standard Flying 10, the 1937 standard Flying 10. The Triumph Renown is a little beauty just over behind me over there. Yeah, possibly this little Riley Monaco behind me, the little Riley 9 Monaco. That's a great little car, but there are some lovely pre-war cars, so it is really difficult for me to pick a winner this time. But if you have an obvious, a real standout car, let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Time for a cup of tea, get back home, get this edited and get this one out ASAP. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that kind of thing. There'll be loads more videos along very soon. So bye for now.